Well, hello everyone, Brian from Barrel Bottom Reviews here on the channel, most eager to change its own name, and I'm coming to you in audio-only form today to try out a new format for reviewing movies at a more rapid pace. You know, many people have given me the compliment that I have a great face for audio. Anyway, today's film is a documentary from 2011, so many years ago, a documentary which at times is funny, tragic, but barely informative, and that film of course is Shut Up Little Man. This was a documentary that I remember being excited for when I first heard about it. It's about two roommates who are subjected to the unrelenting yelling next door, especially the phrase from which the film's title is taken, and in retaliation, our heroes decide to record it all to be laughed at. It ends up being sampled by a Devo side project and was a tape that goes on to legendary underground cassette tape status. It seems to fit nicely in the same universe as Neil Hamburger's Great Phone Calls, so let's dive in. What exactly the subject of the film is sort of lost on me. It's about the tapes, but it's about the guys who made them. We get a little backstory from them, but it's also about the two neighbors themselves, Raymond and Peter. But it's also about audio verite, which more or less is just simplified into prank phone calls or celebrity freakouts. I definitely like the fact that old commercials and film serial footage is used, especially with the audio from the tapes playing to fill in the gaps, which was the right way to go and in line with the whole found art aesthetic, which is a great thing on its own. The reenactments weren't something I liked seeing, however, especially since we end up seeing video of one of the neighbors eventually anyway. The style of the movie itself is ever-changing, but less in a way of evolution and more of scrambledness. There's really tacky and dated-looking versions of YouTube. We get a cruddy puppet show version of the characters, off-Broadway adaptions, not to mention the tired old audio clips of Orson Welles freaking out about frozen peas. If you haven't heard that by now, well, you might as well start with the wine commercials. The bottom line is this: I'm listening to tapes of two old men who are unemployed, drinking endlessly, verbally and physically abusive towards each other, and that's all it really is. It's just the same thing over and over, yelling match after yelling match of sadistic, homophobic, and desperate abuse. It's not very funny either, but the film never really goes anywhere or answers any questions one might have about the nature of Raymond and Peter's relationship, past them just being friends, or what about it resonates with people, and there are only passing moments where the archivists feel any responsibility. There's a moment where the longtime third roommate with Peter and Raymond denies being interviewed because the pain of recalling that time in his life was too much, and it's just kind of played up how Peter and Raymond themselves should be gracious for the fact that recordings of their real life have been exposed without their prior knowledge, and now the guys suddenly want to pay him and he should just accept the money. Their reactions are very relaxed compared to what they could have been. Their privacy was invaded to an extreme degree. The real problem with this movie is that it's attacking someone who's not really worthy of ridicule. It's punching down. We're not listening to the Watergate tapes, we're not listening to Christian Bale yelling at a stagehand, although that clip is used in the movie. An actor like Mel Gibson who goes on an absurd, hostile diatribe against the Jews deserves to be taken down a peg. But there's a terribly sad and off-putting story with Raymond and Peter. If what we're hearing in their outward personalities is this bad, they probably cry themselves to sleep trying to repress memories from the war. Who knows what happened in their lives? Maybe they lost someone close to them and never recovered. Point being, we should stay the hell out of their lives. The movie inadvertently addresses privacy and hero worship. The whole thing just kind of feels empty and mean-spirited. I went from liking it to having to turn it off upon first viewing, and after finishing it this time years later, I like it even less. I mean, you're literally watching one of them justify their exploitative behavior because they weren't thinking of it in terms of it becoming successful. Who could have? And in the final interview, which is then just followed by tons of voyeuristic shots of homeless people for some reason, the final payoff is this conversation with the third roommate named Tony. He doesn't really bring any new information to light that couldn't have already been surmised, and again, it feels like it's a harrowing experience recalling these horrible living circumstances. Perhaps it's a precursor to things like Crank Yankers, but it just sort of gets old very fast for me and becomes increasingly unbearable after that. I see nothing wrong with dark humor. There were even a few laughs in this year's Killing of a Sacred Deer. The humor is hollow on this one, however, and I see no reason to care much about the two people who exploited the old men and made money off of it. And the film ends up showing them to be greedy and self-centered people anyways. Perhaps just watch Sonic Outlaws instead, a film detailing culture jamming, a phrase coined by Don Joyce, key member of the featured group from the film Negativland. In that film we get much more concise examples of how found art can be recontextualized and actually comment on the original intent of an advertisement or whatever the case may be. Go and rearrange a billboard from being about McDonald's to being about war crimes, or just do it for the sake of being silly. But think next time about who the target is and whose integrity is being put on the line. And yes, I know I'm defending two drunk, belligerent, and miserable old men, but someone's gotta do it. Or not, I don't care. Just don't give more money to these guys, for God's sake. I mean, they're literally reminiscing at one point while looking through shelves of tape after tape of these recordings they've made, going, oh yes, this is the one where he goes, "Fuck you, you cocksucker." Oh, and this is the one where he goes, "You cocksucker, fuck you." Let's pat ourselves on the back for this genius. I mean, the tapes weren't even used as samples to be put into something else. It's just another night in a tough neighborhood, folks. So yeah, totally and absolutely cannot recommend this unless you're already familiar with these tapes and eager to get a slight bit of context and catch up with the dudes who originally taped it. But for 99% of the rest of the internet, actually, what am I talking about? The internet loves exploitative shit. Feast on it, high schoolers who haven't heard it yet. Go forth. Okay, well, thanks for sticking with this audio review. I hope you enjoyed the new format. There will be more reviews to follow, both in audio and film format, so I hope to see you there in this beautiful new year. Oh yes, and stay sexy.